Hello, welcome back to the Fruit of Grisaia.
ユージは毎朝5時には目を覚ます。正確には4時45分には半覚醒状態に入り、15分かけてゆっくりと目を覚ますパターンが多いと言っていた。現在時刻は午前4時30分。さすがにこの時間ならまだ眠っているはず。
おはようございます。
意図的に潜めた声はユージが目覚めていた時のためのフェイルセーフだ。もしここで迂闊にも起こしてしまえば、私の計画の全ては水泡に帰すこととなるだろう。我ながらバカバカしいことを思いついたものだと探索しつつも、私は静かにベッドに近づく。
よく寝ているね。いい子だよ。
なるほど。こうして死んだように眠る寝顔にはいささかの既視感がある。変なところまで似ているのだなと思えば笑い出しそうになるけれど、ここはぐっと我慢する。
さてと、それじゃちょっと失礼してお邪魔します。
ベッドの上、いかにも体温が低そうに眠るユージの横、かけられた薄い毛布の中に潜り込む。まだ肌寒くも感じる朝の静謐な空気の中、身を滑り込ませた毛布のぬくもりを心地よく感じると同時に、男の甘く濃厚な体臭を鼻に感じて頭が少しクラクラとし始める。
ユージ、
嗅ぎ慣れたマキナの南国果実のような甘い体臭とはまた違う刺激的で危険な甘い匂い。代謝の激しい若い男の体臭なんていい匂いのわけはないし、自分でも少し異常だと分かっていても、つい鼻をこすりつけて匂いを嗅いでしまう。いいも悪いもなく、これが風見雄二という男の匂いだと思うと、ずっと嗅いでいたいとそう思ってしまう。昔からよく聞く話では、好きになってしまえば相手のどんなとこも好ましく思えるようになるという。私はこの男を本当に好きになってしまったのだろうな。それはそれで構わない。私にはこの男が必要なのは変わらない。
それじゃあいただきます。
What was that sound just now? Doesn't cut it, woman. What do you think you're doing?
何って見ればわかるでしょ。よばい。
I have a clear and rational rebuttal to that statement, namely, it's currently morning.
じゃあ朝ばい。
Your choice of words isn't the issue. I'm trying to point out that it seems like a bad idea to use up all your energy before the day's even gotten started.
朝から気だるくなるようなことをするのが今時の彼氏と彼女だと思うけど、減るもんじゃないし。
I think it probably can.
でも嬉しいでしょ。
Yeah, I'm about to weep from joy.
私が彼女になってよかったでしょ。
Feels like less like we're dating and more like I'm being repeatedly Sakaki did give me a vague warning, but I didn't expect such an aggressive sneak attack.
榊さんが？なんで？
I'm assuming you said something to her about this. She told me I was being targeted yesterday.
あ、そうなんだ。
I figured it wouldn't be anything big, but clearly I underestimated you. Caught me totally off my guard. It said that an American radar installation picked up the incoming attack on Pearl Harbor an hour in advance. But the operators negligently concluded that what they were seeing couldn't possibly be right, magnifying the eventual damage. Today I was equally lax, and I too paid a heavy price. That said, since I was awake from the instant Amane entered the room and let her do as she pleased, I don't think an outraged declaration of war would be justifiable. And ridiculous as these hormone-addled antics may be. As someone who may well screw up at work one day and never come back, it's hard to get angry about such minor indignities. This route is a literal heaven. I'm so happy for them. I knew early on that Amane had a fairly easygoing attitude towards sex. And that sizable body of hers has curves in all the right places. It's an undeniable feast for the eyes of any heterosexual man. Despite her dinosaur-like proportions, she's not a rough or crude tyrannosaurus of a woman, quite the opposite. She's highly precise, startlingly thoughtful, and an all-purpose housework machine with particular talent in the kitchen. Her personality is frank and outspoken in a good way. She tells me honestly what she's thinking, making communication mostly painless. Still, that courageous front sometimes gives way to timidity when the girl gets carried away. All you have to do is deliver a brief scolding, and she'll shrink in sorrow like an apologetic dog. You can practically see her tail drooping between her legs. When she looks up at me with her best puppy dog eyes and mumbles, "Oh, I'm sorry," with that pathetic expression on her face, it's impossible to maintain my anger, however well justified. In the end, I can't help but mutter, "Alright, as long as you got the message," and nod in forgiveness. The girl's talent for emotional manipulation is downright fearsome.
Yuuji, お昼だよ。お弁当にしよう。今日はね、この前ユージが美味しいって言ってたお豆腐のハンバーグだぞ。
You don't play fair, woman.
何よ、急に。
Don't think you can ensnare me so easily in this little honey trap of yours. I'm wise to you.
籠絡？ごめん、意味わかんない。
By means of her culinary persuasion, she's insidiously grabbed hold of my stomach, not to mention that since our relationship went public, she's become even more aggressively clingy than before. On top of which, she's taken things to the next level, periodically whispering, "Free go at any time, available upon request," in my ear. At this rate, I'm seriously going to end up unable to live without this woman. Good. If she does end up becoming an essential part of my life, what should I do about it? Premature as it may be, if I'm considering what would be best for Amane, it's probably worth thinking about the possibility of an eventual marriage. As a general rule, planning your wedding while still a student is embarrassingly naive at best. As adolescent foolishness goes, it's right up there with confidently sending out your English poetry to literary journals. That said, a man owes his woman clearly defined intentions. Coasting along indecisively is the coward's way out. I do feel guilty about the prospect of creating someone who will have to mourn my death, but if I'm serious about marrying Amane, the biggest problem isn't emotional, it's purely practical. Namely, there's my job. In my workplace, making a trivial mistake at the wrong time can mean dying in a ditch with all the dignity of some anonymous stray dog hit by a car. Most of all, it's an occupation that doesn't bear explaining to others. Say Amane takes me to meet her parents. Exactly what am I supposed to tell them? I mean, if I wanted to, I'm sure I could have some plausible, convenient workplace assigned to me as camouflage, but that would be a betrayal of Amane and her family. In other words, I have to quit. Since my 2-year training period in America, I've already spent 2.5 years as a regular in Japan. At some point, I even rose up the ladder to acting squad leader, but there's still a good year and a half left in my designated field term. And even when that runs out, it won't exactly be, okay then, thanks for everything, good luck out there, the collar's not coming off that easy. At best, I'll be a permanent reserve, subject to emergency call-ups whenever the company deems my presence necessary. And 10 days a year, I'd be obligated to participate in a training camp for the purpose of maintaining fitness. In short, these chains don't come off until I'm dead. My life's just full of problems.
風見さんではありませんか。こんな場所でどうかされましたか。何かお困りのことでも。
Oh, Sachi? No, it's nothing. Just stressing myself out with some vague anxieties about the future.
将来への不安ですか。
Nothing you need to be concerned about. It's only natural for young people to worry themselves over such things from time to time. So, what are you doing out here yourself, Sachi? Lessons over already?
はい、これから私は自治会のお手伝いがあって外出するところです。
Community service, is it? Very admirable.
あまねさんは一緒ではないのですか？
No, I mean, it would be a little pathetic if I was constantly carrying her around like some toddler's ragged security blanket.
あ、いえ、体のある質問をしたつもりではないのですが、風見さん、この後は何かご予定は？
No, none in particular.
でしたら私と一緒に自治会のお手伝いに参加していただけないでしょうか。
I suppose I might be, but what would I need to do?
はい、今日は地元の少年サッカーのチームが試合をするので、そのサポートです。
As in waving a flag around and cheering?
いえ、要は監督と言いますか、子供たちが安全に試合ができるように配慮して、怪我人が出たりした場合は手当てをしたりします。
I see. And why was that job left to Sachi in the first place? She informs me that the chairman of Mishima Cape's neighborhood council is an acquaintance of hers and passes on similar requests every once in a while. In a way, it feels like they're taking advantage of Sachi's pathologically obedient personality, which does inspire a twinge of righteous anger on my part. But we can't neglect to give back to our community, and it seems the requests themselves aren't unreasonable, so I guess it doesn't quite rise to the level of unethical behavior on their part. Even so, if my assistance can slightly reduce Sachi's burden, I'll gladly lend a hand. When we arrive at the soccer field, which has been set up on a vacant lot not far from the ocean, the children have already begun to gather. There's even a few young primary schoolers still carrying their knapsacks, apparently having hurried here directly after school ended. As the group picks up on our arrival, there's a shout of, "Hey, it's Sachin!" and the children crowd around us in a relaxed, familiar way. From what Sachi told me, an individual named Sasaki-san had been coaching the town soccer team, but his chronic lumbago intensified badly a little while ago. It seems he's been hospitalized for a good month now. During that time, she's apparently been acting as a stand-in supervisor when she has the chance. Sachi's first order of business is to blow on the whistle dangling around her neck, gathering the stragglers to us. Once the group is assembled, she begins to introduce me. Specifically, this is Kazani Yuji-san, a heartless monster of a coach here to ruthlessly beat some instruction into you. As the friendly smile I'd been planning freezes halfway to my face, my expression stiffens slightly, which in turn only acts to confirm her words. The children quietly gulp in terror. And with that, Sachi turns to me and gives a short bow, then trots off toward the sideline benches, where she begins preparing the sports drinks and such. Okay, I didn't hear anything about coaching anyone, woman. But I keep my complaints to myself. I can't just back down now. Not with this group of children in their soccer uniforms standing at attention in front of me, waiting for my words with bated breath. I want you all to try and learn a few things from this match. First and foremost, the importance of adequate preparation. Somehow or other, I'm a team leader at the company, which means I've had subordinates under my command. I'm relatively experienced at giving instructions. The only way you're going to improve is through your own preparations, your own effort. Don't plan on getting better by learning from others. In the middle of a game, we didn't learn this yet, won't cut it. The only path that leads to competence is the one you forge yourself. A battle is all about the number of shots you've taken. In other words, the guy who's been practicing his shooting longer is more often, and more often is the one who's going to survive. You don't make split-second decisions consciously. It's all reflexes, and you get those through experience. Knowing what to do isn't enough. You need to drill it into your body. The guys who stop to think in the middle of the field are the first to die. You get the picture. I tried my best to offer them some vaguely plausible instruction, but I have some serious doubts about how much actually got across to them. And I suppose it's debatable how valuable the advice of a complete soccer amateur like myself could possibly be. Still, I do think the general principles are pretty nearly universal. The ball is your friend. Love your friend. Kick the stuffing out of your friend. I have no further instructions. Complete a thorough warm-up before the match begins. I conclude my little speech with a muddle of incoherent encouragement, but for some reason the children all shout, "Yes, sir!" enthusiastically. Within seconds, they begin performing energetic calisthenics routines.
さすがですね、風見さん。
Look, Sachi, I don't remember hearing anything about coaching. You kind of sprung that on me out of nowhere, you know?
すみません。ですが、風見さんならお任せできると確信しておりました。
Fine, but was the heartless monster bit really necessary? The kids were quivering in their cleats.
それもすみません。やはり現場には怖い人がいないと、どうしても子供たちの集中力が欠けてしまって、怪我をする子が増えてしまうんですよ。
I see, so that's why you asked me to come along. A lack of tension gives rise to a lack of caution. When you're not concentrating, you're more likely to get injured. And when there's no clear top dog around, it's easier for pointless fights to break out among the pack. So it would seem that there's a need for me to assume the role of a scary person in order to keep the children attentive and appropriately cautious. In that case, there's a woman I remember all too well who should serve as a useful point of reference. I'm referring, of course, to my master, Kusakabe Asuko. Asuko. A truly scary person isn't someone who breaks out in fits of rage or attempts to intimidate others with spasms of meaningless violence. When she was teaching me the job, Asuko would most often stand by my side and watch my performance in perfect silence. Every once in a while, she'd poke my head with a stick. If I missed to the right or left, she'd jab me on the appropriate cheek. If my shot sailed high, she'd bring her stick down on the crown of my head with relish. Instead of speech, she communicated through the whip. Her little jabs were always sharp enough to make my eyes water. Honestly, it annoyed me at the time, but if I stayed focused on my task and hit my target, the stick never came my way. The most dangerous stage of learning your job isn't the beginning. It's when you start to move past the rookie mistakes and gain something resembling competence. There's a tendency to get overconfident and blunder carelessly in a But even once Asuko was no longer at my side, when I imagined her working watchfully nearby, my focus was always perfect. More often than not, human error is caused by simple carelessness. If giving the children a fear square from the sidelines can help eliminate that factor from this event, reducing the possibility of accidents or injuries, there's some value in my being here. The match raged on into the early evening. In the end, spurred on by my glowing attentions, Mishima Cape's team Mishima Cape's team proved triumphant. On the unfortunate side of things, one boy from the opposing team, visitors from a nearby town, tripped and fell, skinning his elbow and knee. but fortunately both were minor scrapes, and he was able to return to the game immediately after being traded. After the match ended, we took part in a group barbecue that's apparently a post-game tradition. By the time that was over as well, the sun had already sunk halfway below the horizon.
すみません、風見さん。遅くまでお付き合いいただいて。
It's fine, not like I had anything else to do. Glad to be of help. Having finished cleanup of the barbecue and stowed the equipment in a storehouse next to the field, we returned the key to the town council, then give a quick report. It's already past 7. The children headed home before 6, which would mean we spent over an hour on the wrap-up. I don't even want to think about how long it would have taken Sachi by herself.
Demo, 少し意外でした。風見さんはサッカーの経験があるのですか？
Not really. I do know the rules, but my only experience with the game would be what I picked up from PE lessons in elementary school.
そうなんですか？その割には何やら随分と達見した訓示をされていたようなので、私はてっきりサッカー経験の豊富なサック野郎なのだとばっかり。
Hold on, what exactly is the sucked community supposed to be?
サッカーをする子供はサッカー少年ですよね。
Well, yeah, as long as you ask an American.
では、サッカーをする若者はサック野郎なのでは？
You're extremely wrong, frighteningly so.
たとえ風見さんがサック野郎でなかったとしても、傾聴に値する大変有意義な言葉だったと思います。
You think?
はい。例えば、転んで怪我をしてしまった相手チームの子がいたじゃないですか。自分の血を見て泣き出してしまったあの子に、風見さんはおっしゃいましたよね。男が涙を見せていいのは財布を落とした時と母親が死んだ時だけだ。そして人知れず泣く時にも厳しい制限がある。涙は他人のために流せ。自分のために流していいのは汗だけだ。覚えておけ。実に力強いお言葉です。この小峰幸、心が震えてまたぐらがしめる思いです。思わず携帯を取り出しておしめりなうとネット上でつぶやいてしまうところでした。
I see. To be honest, I have no idea what to say to you at this point. A message. I take my private use cell phone from my breast pocket and check the screen. The email is from a certain Swell Amane, and the contents.
今どこにいんの？ご飯用意できてるから早く帰っておいで。
The digital clock in the corner of the screen tells me it's comfortably past 7. Not surprising she'd wonder where I'd gotten to. Crap, I forgot to get in touch with Amane.
あまねさんと何か約束があったのですか？
No, nothing like that. Probably just sent the message because I didn't show up at dinner time. Wants me back on the double. It's true that I forgot to tell Amane I'd be late, but it's not like she slipped my mind entirely. In fact, since I was planning to have dinner with Amane, I spent the whole barbecue with the soccer teams grilling meat instead of eating anything.
あまねさん、怒っていらっしゃいますか？
No, not a problem. I don't think she seems upset. I hand over my cell phone to Sachi to give her a look at Amane's message.
なるほどです。でも、もしあまねさんに怒られそうなら、全部私のせいにしてください。サチがあまりに可愛かったので、つい手を貸してしまった。悪いのは可愛すぎるサチなのだと。
Sachi, my friend, are you familiar with the phrase pouring gasoline on a fire?
リニアプラ？磁力で胸が大きくなる新型の下着でしょうか？
That's a bit of a stretch, and yet I'm still not entirely confident you're trying to make a joke.
風見さん、このメール、何やら画像が添付されているようですが。
Sachi reaches her hand to the cell phone screen and scrolls down.
うわ。
And with a strange little grunt of surprise, her face instantly flushes red. What's up? Something wrong? Slightly concerned by Sachi's reaction, I pull my cell phone out of her hands and look at the screen. A truly outrageous image stares back at me. It seems I wasn't just imagining that shutter sound I thought I'd heard in the middle of Amane's morning raid. What is she thinking? Amane, my friend, what am I going to do with you? You mind explaining yourself, my good Amane-san? No, I think I understand. You figured sending this over would get me wobbling straight home with an uncomfortable bulge in my pants, yes? Hey, Sachi.
はい、何でしょう、風見さん。
Just a moment ago, I said I have no idea what to say to you at this point. Allow me to correct myself in retrospect. I was wrong. I've only now come to understand what it truly means to be lost for words. I'm sure that anything I say now would sound like an excuse to you. A man doesn't show his tears to others, but that doesn't mean the urge to sweat from your eyes won't well up inside you every once in a while. I do manage to salvage at least a scrap of masculine pride from this situation. By resisting the desire to rush back to the dorm, burst into Amane's room and denounce her misdeed. Instead, I walk calmly back and pretend the email never happened, an act of restraint that allows me to maintain some meager kernel of self-respect.
Mm. というようなことが昨日ありまして、びっくりして思わず「わ」って言っちゃいました。
ああ、ごめんね。ちょっとしたシャレのつもりだったんだけど、あのメール見ちゃったんだ。返信はなかったし、ユージも何も言わなかったから見てないのかと思ってたよ。ねえねえ、それってどんな写真だったの？私にもあんたには10年早いわよ。 私と同い年のサッチンには見せたくせに納得いかねえのよ。
さっちゃんには見せたんじゃなくて見られちゃったの。とにかくダメ。
なんだよそれ。ちょっとお兄ちゃんの彼女の座を射止めたグレーで随分と上からだな。見してくんねえなら自分で試すぞ。いいのか。
自分で試すってどうする気よ。
もう廊下の自販機の横にしゃがんで口開けて待ってりゃ、そのうちお兄ちゃんが小銭握りしめてやってくるのよさ。
いや、ないからそういうこと。
おお、ずいぶんと余裕だねあんまね。しかし本当にないかな。ないと言い切れるのかな。
ないわよ。
そうか。では試してみようじゃないのよさ。さっち、これを。
サインペン。これで何をするの、マキちゃん。
私のほっぺたに書いてほしいのよさ。右の方には1回100円、左の方には。
いいけど、これ油性だよ。
構うものか。さあ書くのよさ。
こらこらこらこら、やめなさいって。どんなプレーよそれ。
プレイじゃないのよ。少女の好奇心に対する抑圧が生み出す暴走なのよさ。
バカな真似はやめなさい。ちょっとうるさいわよ、あんたたち。今が何の時間か分かってるの？お昼の時間ですね。
そうな、ご飯の時間なのよ。
それが何？なんでどいつもこいつも不思議そうな顔して私を見んのよ。食事の時間にあれがこれで何がどうだとか、やかましいっつってんのよ。
何を興奮してんのよさ。
会話に混ぜてほしいなら素直にそう言えばいいのに。じゃあもう誰もそんなこと言ってないでしょ。っていうか、お昼食べてる時にそういう下の話をする？そういうのは合コンの二次会とかでやってくれるかな。すみません。よりによってお昼のおかずが極太フランクフルトソーセージの時に大変お聞き苦しいお話を。
おお、これはまた立派なソーセージなのよさ。ねえ、あまねえ、これってどっちが太い？ん？
どれどれ？食べてみればわかるかも。
ああ、もうなんなのよこのエロエロ空間。
つか、なんで誰も止めないのよ。幼女は？ユミコは？ストッパーの連中どこ行ったのよ。はい、榊さんは都内の私大へ経済学の聴講に、風見さんは学園長さんと一緒にテレビの取材に行かれました。はあ？テレビ？何の番組よ？確か地方民放局のローカル番組で日本の教育を語るとかなんとか。風見さんは学園長さんの付き添いという形だそうです。何よ付き添いって。 ユージなわけ？うちの学園長さんは若くして不相応な地位を手に入れられたことでやっかみも多いですし、護衛のようなものかと。
楽屋でしてるとこスクープされなきゃいいけどな。
しないから。ユージは私で十分満足してるから。
ほい、そいつはどうかな。男ってのは結構わがままなのよ。あまねえのパッツンパッツンの若い肉体も欲しつつ、チズチズのいい感じにやれた女の体を求めても不思議じゃないし、時には青い果実のごとき私のような肉体を欲することも。
そして時には従順なメイドをいじめてヒーヒー言わせてみたいと思っている可能性がなきにしもあらず。ぐぐさっちゃん、あなたまで。だからなんですぐそっちの方に話が進むの？もう知らない。私よそ行って食べる。ついてこんないでよね。みちる様、どちらへ？ウルシャーって。
ウルシャーってのはウルシー干渉と何か関係が？
ないでしょっていうか、ウルシー干渉って何？第二次世界大戦における連合国軍の重要拠点です。というか、みちる様のことを放っておいていいのでしょうか。まあ悪いことしたとは思うけど、いいんじゃない？ついてくんなって言ってるし。
いいのか？あいつ絶対隠れて練習するよ。お弁当のフランクフルト使って。
はあ、つまり勘違いしないでよねとか言いつつも練習をするわけだよね。
キモいのよさ。後でこっそり見に行って間抜けな顔を写真に撮ってやろうよ。
あんたらあれか？鬼の子か？
で、結局写真は見してくんないの？
だってさすがにね。ですが、何でもかんでも良くないものとして奪い上げるのは教育者の怠慢だとも言いますよ。教育者の管理のもと、これは良くないものだと正しく自己認識させるのが教育だと風見さんもおっしゃっていました。
マキナの教育によくねえよ、そういう。
いや、なんていうか、ちょっと恥ずかしいのよね。
おお、あまねえとは思えぬ気弱な発言なのよさ。まあいいじゃん。方角のためにちょっと見るだけなのよ。
まあさっちゃんには見られちゃったしな。仕方がないか。ちょっとだけよ。
おう、ちょっとだけちょっとだけ。どれどれ。うわ、なんじゃこりゃ。えぐ、つかグロ、信じらんね
いや、なんていうか、むしろ美味しすぎてよだれが止まらなかったと。いや、全然違う。 ていうかもういいでしょ、携帯返して。
うわ、なんだろう。そっか、あまね、ちょっと遠くに。
そんなこと別にねえ、マキナだっていつかは経験することだし、そんな焦らなくても。
おう、今上から物言ったな。恋愛上級者気取りか、恋愛情報発信基地か、それでタイガーガールのつもりか。おう、
そんな言い方しなくったって。そりゃさ、学園で唯一の男子だし、ちょっと悪いことしたかなって思ってるけどさ。大丈夫ですよ。なんだかんだ言っても結局は誰も天音さんを恨んだりなんかしていません。こうして私やマキちゃんが天音さんをいじるのも、結局風見さんは天音さんを選ぶであろうということを認めているからですよ。じゃあ聞くけど、もしユージがさっちゃんのこと抱きたいって言ってきたらどうすんの？それはほら、うぐって言った。何うぐって。もし私が OK 出したらユージに処女あげちゃうんじゃないの？その風見さんがどうしてもとおっしゃるのなら、マキナ。
おう、なんなのよさ。
あんたはどうする？もしユージが処女くれって言ってきたら。
そりゃねえ、あまねの男を寝取るのも悪いし、多分あまねには内緒にするのよってちゃんと言うと思うのよ。
なんて油断のならない子たちなの、あんたたち。
いや
照れちゃいますね。言っておくけど褒めてないからね。
平気なのよ。お兄ちゃんはああ見えて臆病者だから。あまねがいるのに他の女に手を出すほど度胸はないし、自分がされて嫌なことは人にはしない男なのよさ。
ですね。というか、いくら私たちが迫ったところで面倒くさいと言って全てスルーされてしまうような気がします。そうかな。でもユージだって男だし。
あまねはお兄ちゃんの彼女のくせして、お兄ちゃんのことあんま分かってねえのな。戦場はセックスより安全だとか言っちゃうような男が浮気なんかするわけねえのよ。
案外彼女になって距離が詰まると見えなくなる部分なのかもしれませんね。なんか急に不安になってきた。私とこの子たちの違いは何だろう。この子たちになくて私が持っているもの、父かな。あ、そうか、それだ。その手があったわ。
なんかまたくだらねえこと思いつきやがったな。まあいいよ、突っ込まないでおくから、また写真撮ったら見してね。
どうしよう。私ってもしかして天才？聞いてないみたいだよ、マキちゃん。
なんだろうな、もう
Seka. 2 hours after my classmates' supremely vulgar conversation, I returned to the school with Chizuru. Currently, I'm receiving a hospital little cup of coffee in her office. Did you really even need a bodyguard today?
まあそうね。結果的には必要なかったのかもしれないけど、あなたがいてくれたことで少しは格好がついたというところかしら。この年で独り身だと何かと勘ぐる人も多くてね。話し合いのテーマとは別の方向に会話を持ち込もうとするインタビューも多いし。
So you wanted to walk into the studio with a young man in tow for the sake of your image?
ありていに言っちゃえばそういうことになるのかな。
Buying men just to show off like a new handbag, huh? Must be nice living at the top.
もうあなたまでそういうこと言う？はい、もういい。
Thanks. Quite the fragrant cup of coffee. Something wrong?
コーヒーです。ちょっといい感じだけじゃない。どうしてあなたはそうやって意地の悪いことばかり言うの？
Maybe if you got the marbles out of your mouth, people wouldn't take you for a pushover and ask you rude questions on live television. Just a thought.
このふにゃふにゃは生まれつきです。あなたにはちゃんとお給金を払っているんだから、もっと雇用主を敬いなさい。
Please do excuse my impoliteness, mistress. Goodness gracious, whatever am I to do with this young lady? True enough, my escort duty today was compensated at a fair wage, but that naturally passed through the company, meaning Ichigaya, JB, and the taxman all got their cut. So my actual take-home pay amounted to a mere 2,500 yen for a full day's work. Of course, Chizuru's a friend, so the money isn't a big deal. I wouldn't have objected to doing the job for free, but as a professional, I'm contractually obligated to pick up whatever money I can for my services. The mission itself was hardly objectionable either, but after being forced into a Gaultier suit, carted off to some high-class salon to have my hair slicked down with gel. Then having some trendy Fioriti eyeglasses with fake lenses pushed on my head. I'll be darned if I'm going to talk to the women like I'm a butler on top of it all. Incidentally, how much longer will you be requiring my services for this little game of house mistress? I'd really like to get out of this crappy tie sometime soon.
よく似合っているわよ。もう少しいいじゃない。
I was trying to avoid saying this, since it would be pretty irritating to have you think I'm whipped already, but to be honest, I want to avoid spending too much time alone with women.
あらまあ、一応私も女扱いされていたのね。でもどうして？
I'm a man in a relationship, somehow or other. I don't want to make Amane pointlessly anxious if I can help it.
あらあら、まあまあ、女なんて関係ねえよみたいなやんちゃ気取りかと思っていたのに、意外とそういうところで昇進なのね。
That's right. I'm a coward by nature. I think that's what kept me alive so far. Cowards have a good nose for danger, and when they catch the scent, they avoid it like the plague. The rank of hero might sound nicer, but you'll only get there through posthumous promotion. I'll pass for now. There are only 3 things worth sacrificing your life for: your country, your friends, or your women. And if you're willing to die for your woman, you darn well shouldn't go around making her unhappy. Amane reminds me of my mother in some ways. She puts up a bold front, but at heart she's pretty timid. Might act tough, but she'll fall to pieces if she tries to keep everything inside. Troublesome sort of woman, really. If you let her be for too long, she'll get cranky, but if you give her too much attention, it'll just make her all the more anxious. For the moment, I'm letting her do what she pleases. Hopefully we'll eventually get more comfortable together, but right now we're still at kind of a sounding out phase. I don't want to give her any reason to feel uneasy.
恋愛なんて無縁だぜみたいな顔して結構真面目に考えてるのね。
Well, I can't deny I'm completely inexperienced with this sort of thing. My closest point of reference is working with a partner in a squad, so I'm approaching it more or less the same way.
あなた学校の先生なんてどう？意外と向いているかもしれないわよ。
I've got enough headaches as is, thanks. I chose a job I can do alone precisely because I'm not cut out for managing a group.
それにしても少し意外かな。スオさんのこと本気なのね。
I'm still uncertain just how seriously I can take this relationship, but it's exactly because we're at that tentative stage that I'm not being half about the details.
仕事はどうするつもり？
That's a big part of the uncertainty I just mentioned.
だから学校の先生はうちの学園なら隠れ蓑として申し分ないじゃない。
Is that a serious offer?
あなたが本気なら私も本気で考えるわよ。
I'll think about it. Not an unattractive proposal, to be sure. Cheezier is well acquainted with my circumstances, so working at her school wouldn't create any awkward problems or conflicts with my main occupation. Even if I were to be suddenly called to my side job, it's perfectly possible to cancel a lecture or bring in a substitute teacher. And that training camp that runs 10 days a year should be easy enough to fit into one of the long seasonal vacations that come with being an educator. To be honest, I can't predict how long my relationship with Amane will last. But nevertheless, some serious thought about our possible future together might be called for. Oh, she's just laying down. Bye.